Testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Well, y'all, we getting ready to get started. Can we give God a great big hand praise? This is awesome. This is the day that the Lord has made, and we're going to rejoice and be glad in this day. You all have introduced yourselves. So how many think somebody that you just recently met was pretty cool? Raise your hand. Right, cool. That's what's up, right? So we're grateful to be here. Thank you all for coming. Y'all, this is history, right? Come on, you are a part of history. Those that are here in this room today, and we'll have others that will be coming along. I'm excited, man. My name is Pastor Marlon Locke. I'm the senior pastor here of Unity Gospel House of Prayer Church in our great city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that I'm proud to be a part of. And I'm here, man, just to introduce you all to an amazing young man. Quick story. I knew this young man, Dr. Bashir Easter, way before he was a doctor, right? When we both thought we were really, really good at basketball and we were going to go to the NBA and we were going to make it. Many years ago, we used to play behind the dorms at UWM. And long story short, I'm in the barber shop. Let me fast forward 15, 20 plus years, 25 years maybe even. And he walks past and he speaks to me. He said, "Hey, Pastor Locke, how you doing?" I'm like, "Man, what's good, bro?" Right? And we're talking. And he says, "Hey, man, I want to connect with you and Big Robert Jackson, later about some things I want to do in the community." Right? So we exchanged information. My barber, G, owner of G's Clippers, he said, "Man, that's a good dude." I said, "Oh, yeah, man, we played ball together, played in some church leagues together, things of that nature." He contacted me, reached out, he set up a Zoom meeting, right? Big Rob called me and he says, "Hey, man, Bashir is going to be conducting the Zoom." I didn't know him as Bashir. You know, growing up in the city, you know, you just hoop with somebody. You just be like, "Hey, what's up, my man? What up, dude? What up, bro? You know, you got next." So I didn't even know his real name. So Rob was like, "Man, you know Dr. Bashir?" I'm like, "No, I don't know no Dr. Bashir." Matter of fact, I started off calling him Dr. Sabir, right? Literally on the morning blend, they're interviewing me, and I'm like, "Yeah, Dr. Sabir," and I'm thinking to myself, like, I just gave this man a whole new name. At any rate, he reached out to us with something that he wanted to do in the community with all of us research program, and it took off, right? We're doing some amazing things in regards to mental health and wellness. Grateful for that. But let me backpedal. When I get on the Zoom link, he pops on. And I'm like, "What's up, man? I didn't know you was going to be a part of this." He was like, "Yeah." And then I looked at the name, and I'm like, "You Dr. Bashir? Man, all this time you've been, we've been playing around. You've been in school getting it in, right?" So it was just cool how we connected, did some amazing things. He's a man of vision, a man of passion. Then he reached out to me a few months ago and was telling me about his mom, right? And God rest her soul, and passionate about his mother. And he was just telling me the story of his mom battling dementia and him not knowing what type, and you'll hear about it a little bit later. And it was something near and dear to his heart. And whatever Dr. Bashir Easter puts his mind to do, guess what? He gets it done, right? And just grateful to partner with him. And he was telling us how, when you don't understand the type of dementia, if you will, and things of that nature, you don't know how to deal with it, right? And how the first 5 years of going through it with his mom and his siblings, it was really rough on them. So the Lord gave him something in regards to what you're here for today, Melanin Minded LLC. And he asked me, would Unity Gospel House of Prayer and myself be a part of it without hesitation? Absolutely, right? Absolutely, we will be a part of it. So in being a part of it, man, this is the groundbreaking day, right? So I want to give a round of applause, man, for all of us being here in this groundbreaking day in regards to dementia in our community. So without further ado, I want to present the psalm, and I want to introduce the one and the only Dr. Bashir Easter. Come on, let's give him a round of applause as he comes.
Hello. There you go. All right, everyone. Again, you are absolutely correct. You are here. We are making history. This actually didn't start just now or a week or a month ago. This actually started in 2014. And why it started in 2014 is because there were gaps. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we're here, how do we get here, and some individuals may think things happen overnight, or we make things look easy. But God had to prepare me to be at this time, at this moment, with you that are in this audience, understand, even individuals that are listening, there's a reason why you're hearing it at this day and time, and this moment. So I want y'all to absorb that first, a little bit more. As we start talking more about this, start recognizing this is not just going to be a legacy that I'm going to tell you about my mother, but anyone else who's been impacted by this disease, especially people of color. Anyone in the audience, please, if you raise your hand, know of someone or someone you care for who has been impacted by Alzheimer's or related dementias. Exactly. So what we're going to talk about and do from now on, as this is the first and has not been done in this capacity, you're doing this in the legacy of your loved one as well. Understand that. Whether they're with us now or have passed on to glory. So we're going to move on to the next slide. Let's start off and talk about it. This is a mission. So Melanin Nav LLC, our mission is to be the bridge for information, services, and supports for people of color. And our vision is to empower and equip people of color to have the ultimate quality of life. Why is that set up that way? Well, as I started to focus on Melanin Minded, it wasn't even called Melanin Minded then. It was just really, what do I need to do to serve the community? What does that look like? And what I realized as I focused on this journey, this was not my journey in the beginning. I do not have a background originally in this. My focus really was on business. I have a business background. I have a master's in business. But my mother, as you'll learn more about that as I share, was impacted by this disease that they call dementia. And I realized it was more than just dementia. She actually had a dementia type. I'll explain to that as well. Began to grow, get to the point where they were going to take her leg. So in order to say, hey, can we do anything to stop that, the doctors then stated we can put her legs in cast, right? In cast. And as they put her legs in cast, that would actually subside the ulcers, but she had to do a couple things. She had to be able to take care of her A1C levels, so her sugar levels. So she had to stop drinking Coca-Cola and stop smoking cigarettes. These are the things that they wanted her to stop doing, and she did. Our confusion was, it's like, well, Mom, you have a medical background. Why are you not taking care of yourself? And so we weren't understanding some of the issues she was having, what she was forgetting. She ends up going to have the surgery at the age of 55, and then that's when the change happened, when she came out of the surgery. And when she came out of the surgery, she didn't say anything anymore. She just had a smile on her face, and she just sat there. So they said it was the anesthesia, and once the anesthesia wore off, and she'd be fine. So then we actually took her home, and she said nothing the whole ride home. And as she started to be able to get back into her place, and we got her into her back into her apartment, the next day she was not answering her phone. She was not having any conversations with her kids. And so we went there and knocked on the door. She did not answer, and we had to get the maintenance man to come and unlock the door for us. And she was in the home with her bandage bloody and had a smile on her face still, but had the same clothes on she had on the day before. We took her back to the doctor and said, hey, doc, what's going on? They took her back for an hour. And as they took her back for an hour, they just came back and said to us, your mom has dementia. She can no longer live by herself. So now we're looking at her and my two sisters. I'm the youngest. As they said this, we looked at the doctor and we said, well, wait a minute, no longer by herself. Let's step back. What is dementia? What does that mean? Well, someone's going to have to care for her now. And as they said someone's going to have to care for her, we were like, well, what do you mean? I was the youngest. I wasn't prepared. My middle sister is looking at each other. She was just newly married. And we're still trying to understand because she owned her own, had her own apartment. So as we started to move towards that process of trying to figure it out, the doctor looked at us and says, if you cannot care for her, you need to put her in a nursing home. We're looking at him like nursing home. If you now understand, we talk about nursing home level of care. She was not that. So we left the doctor's office and we cried while we drove to try to figure out what to do. The reason why we are focusing on this disease is because that doctor should have told us about resources, services, and supports. The resources and services and supports that was out in the community, we're talking about the Alzheimer's Association, the Wisconsin Alzheimer's Institute, all the Department on Health and Human Services, and the aging at that time. These are the things that should have been told to us, but it was not. So for 5 years, we struggled, as Pastor was saying. What was the struggling? We tried to figure out how to care for her like it was normal aging. That's all wrong, y'all. You cannot. This disease will tear you and a family apart. So what did it do to our family? Well, my older sister had to make a decision because it became to a point where we were looking at someone that looked the same, but that she was doing things that was not sounding right or acting right. One of the things she continued to do is say she was hungry 24 hours a day. And I'm not kidding you. It was literally that she would eat something, and after she would eat it, she would say she was hungry. We would feed her. She would clear that plate, eat it, have another plate, and then say 10 minutes later, what would she say, y'all? I'm hungry. Is that normal? So we were like, well, Doc, she's saying she's hungry. Keep feeding her. What he says, keep feeding her. And we're like, we can't. Because why? She's diabetic. So he said, well, I'll medicate her. And they medicated her and put her on a high dose of medication where then she actually would sit and had drool down her face. We said, we're not going to do that anymore. Take her off this medication. But the hunger conversation continued to go over and over and over again. So we struggled for 5 years making all the wrong moves and mistakes because someone did not give us information. No longer, y'all. No longer. Please give a hand count. No longer. There's an understanding with this disease, African Americans are 2 times higher to be diagnosed with the disease and impacted, and our Latino community is 1.5 times higher at this disease. Our Native American, as well as our other communities of color, are impacted. So why I started Melanin Minded is because the house is on fire with our community. Everyone is impacted by the disease, but we need to have services and supports that are geared to us to be able to step in. As you see the numbers, go ahead, you can put the numbers back up. The numbers are showing 2018, 5.7 million Americans were living with Alzheimer's disease. It's going to grow to 14 million by 2050. And I stated as African Americans, our Latino communities are the highest hit. What we're trying to do, you can move on. The next thing is that we're trying to do is bring services in. This is the legacy that we're talking about. That is Dolores Pitts. You will remember her name. Everything that we've done, she left here to be with the Father on Good Friday of this year. Everything that we are doing now and your loved one is to be able to leave a legacy for the loved ones that we have. Next slide. So what is dementia? As I stated, I have to share what it is. Dementia, you probably heard dementia and Alzheimer's disease actually intertwined. They're not. Dementia are just of symptoms. These symptoms could easily be memory, cognitive, it could be language, it can be certain things that we talk about that cause you to not be what you say balanced. But there's a difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. Dementia is just symptoms. Anyone could have dementia. You can go out on the town and have a lot of drinks and be slurring words and falling over the place. But once the alcohol actually dissipates out of your body, you're back to normal. You can have a medication interaction that will cause you issues, but once the medication is actually out of your body, you're back to normal. You can actually have a urinary tract infection and have these same type of issues, which are called dementia. When you actually have a type, why you should know this. If you don't know it now, or you know anyone else, if someone says my loved one has been diagnosed with dementia, you should say what? What type? And I guarantee you they're going to look at you and say, what do you mean, what type? That's because the physicians and doctors did not tell them that there is a type. Why you need to know the types is because the parts of the brain that is damaged is how the person reacts. Alzheimer's disease is directly connected to memory. We thought our mother had issues. They kept saying Alzheimer's disease. She didn't have Alzheimer's disease. She had frontal temporal. And it made so much sense after the fact, and that's why we would get so mad. Because what ended up happening was we realized the behavior she was having is because she couldn't control it, because this in your brain has been damaged, and she could not control it. The only reason why I knew about services and supports after 5 years is because of a good friend and a family member that I have is Ramona Williams. Ramona Dix Williams, that's in the audience. Please give her a hand clap, because that is the catalyst of me getting to where I am today. She hired me to work in the elder abuse unit at the Department of Health and Human Services. It was Milwaukee County Department of Aging at that time. And I got there, and that's when I learned about services and supports, and I got extremely angry. Extremely. Because I'm like, how is all these supports out here and no one told us about it, and we struggled for 5 years to figure this out? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's not right. And we're the highest hit. So keep going with the slides. Keep me right, y'all. So the next part of understanding this is what are the things we need to do to change? In 2014, I was out trying to give services as the dementia care specialist for Milwaukee County. In that, I want you all right now on your phones, you have an iPhone or you have an Android. I want you to please go to your Play Store or your Apple Store and to download My Melanin Nav. That is the first dementia-capable transportation service at this time in Milwaukee County and other areas. Please give a hand clap for that. And I'm going to explain it to you. My Melanin Nav. As you download it, you will be able to see. We're going to go through the tutelage. You'll be able to see what it looks like. Go to the next slide for me. All right, dementia-capable transportation. Well, what is it? People are like, well, there are all type of transportation out here, right? How I found out about this and why this was a need and a gap. In 2014, as I was going out and having conversations in the community about services, there was a family that I went to, and the lady says, hey, before you start telling me about any other service, can you tell me about transportation? And I was like, well, we have, the Transit Plus. And she said, no. Before I go there, let me explain to you what my husband is going through. Number one, I work. I work every day. He is newly diagnosed with this disease, and he is a mall walker. And then part of that, they say he needs to be able to continue to get out in the community and all of that. So we tried to do that. So one of the things that we did, we tried the bus. That didn't work because he had to navigate the routes to get to the malls. We then tried to do a taxi service. As the taxi service was an issue, it's because they would just pull up. You have to what? Come out of the house, right? He wasn't aware to just come on out of the house, so the taxi wasn't working. Then he said, well, let's do the Transit Plus process. That was still a great vehicle, a system to use. But the issue with that was they had to call it the day before to schedule it. And then he would get on the van, and before he got to his area, he had to ride the circuit. The other thing that started to impact him, as she stated, was his dignity, the way he felt. Once he got onto it, he was with everyone else that had a lot of issues or some issues that he did not recognize. And so he started to feel a certain way about being on there. Not saying that there's anything wrong with the transportation. He just not feel like it fit him. Family, the other thing, family would pick him up, take him where he needed to go. But what did family have to do? They had to work, right? They had to go places. They couldn't do it every time. So he would sit in the house. And so she said to me, do you have anything for me? And I said, no. And I felt defeated. And I walked out of there, but I never forgot that family. So I walked out of there and continued on to try to figure out. A year later, in 2015, that's when the rideshare service Uber came on to the game. And I actually had a conversation to say, hey, I've thought of this, see if we can work something together. And we continue to move that. That's why you see a video on LLC.com about that, me standing there talking about this. That was in 2016 that we had that conversation. But it was not ready to move until now. I have another person that helped this happen today, who is in the audience, is my partner at the job, Andrea Gar. She was right with me, side by side, doing this work, and actually writing the strategic plan. She took me into one of the rooms and told me, Bashir, get it out of your head what God gave you. And she scrolled every single thing on the board to be what it is today. I thank you for that. My, M-Y, Melanin, N-A-V. So with dementia-capable transportation, what are we going to do differently? So the rideshare service is just that. You're able to ride. We have our traditional drivers who are able to get people out in the community, get them where they need to go, just like our other rideshare company that are out there, you with Uber and Lyft. You're able to do that if you're interested in being a driver. You are now going to be trained to be a dementia-capable driver. Why is that important? There's a difference. We want you to not just have someone in your vehicle. We want you to interact with them. We're asking them to also be able to play music. Music is a major component. So we're actually, with the families that we're connected to, is to create a music playlist that's going to go in their car as they go to touch points into the community. Have you ever heard of dementia-capable, dementia-friendly communities? Yes. We are building that. That started with the state of Wisconsin dementia redesign plan. Now we are a process to get people in the community to help with that dementia-capable, dementia-friendly mindset. The other thing we're asking individuals to do is to give their dignity back. Once we realized, I got information from the DMV, that individuals were having their license revoked and the keys taken away, we are now a tool for them. How is that? Once the person is able to no longer drive, they're still able to function. So we're reducing the stigma of that. Just because you are diagnosed with the disease does not mean you can't function. There are people right now that have dementia that are still going to grocery stores. They're still in restaurants. They're visiting family and friends. We are making sure that they get freedom back into the community, so they're not burdened to have to worry about anyone else to get them where they need to go. And so that's the other piece of the dementia-capable community-friendly driving we're doing as well. The other thing that we're focusing on for individuals, you can keep going with the slides so they can see me, is safety. You will now have a touch point, so the individual caregiver can now go to work and still see it. I'm going to show you in about a few minutes actually how to use that app that you just opened up, what it looks like. Go to the next slide. We're looking to reduce the stigma towards facing Alzheimer's and dementia, safe, effective method of transportation, peace of mind for families, community partnerships, getting people back into the community as they should. That's our expected results. Next. So now you're going to see the interactive of the app that you just downloaded and how we use it. Go ahead and play it. Or out of queuing, I'll keep going. So as you use the app, it is, if you have been a rider with Uber or Lyft, it's the same capability. You're able to order your ride to go any destination that you're interested in going to. There, they got it. Go ahead and play.
Today, I'm going to show you how to book a ride with the Melanin-minded passenger application. So this can be downloaded via the App Store for an iPhone or the Google Play Store if you have an Android. So let me select on the application here, and I'm going to allow my location because I want the app to know exactly where I'm at. Select Always Allow, and it's going to take me to currently where I'm at today, which is Laurelwood Drive in Pendleton, Indiana. So let's play around with the app a little. On the top left corner, there's these three lines. If we select that, we're going to see a login button or a sign up button. We'll get to that a little bit later, but right now what I want to do is I want to set a ride. So I'm going to click the Laurelwood Drive button at the bottom, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to change my location. So I'm going to leave my office and I'm going to the Brewers game tonight. So I'm going to select that, the 1020 North 12th Street, and I'm going to set that as my pickup location. We're going to select that at the bottom. Now I get to choose a service. Am I taking a sedan or an SUV? Well, it's just myself going to the game tonight, so I'm just going to select a sedan. There's no reason to, get a bigger vehicle for just myself. So let's hit sedan there. And now I want to choose a drop-off location. So I'm going to select that, and we're going to the Brewers Field, the American Family Field, and there we go. So we see now that it's booked for now. Let's click Book Later, and I'm able to set my date. So date and time, so it's tonight, and I want to be picked up at 6 p.m. Game starts at 7, get there a little early, find my seat, get a bite to eat, things of that nature. So let me hit save right here. So now you see it says Tuesday, July 26th at 6 p.m. below that, I'm going to have the extra details I can select on that. I'm going to say, meet me at the front door. I can put whatever I want in here, and that way the driver knows exactly where to meet me. I could put special instructions and, second house from the corner, whatever that might be. If I have any promo codes, I can enter that in this box. Fortunately, I don't, so I'm not entering anything in there. And I also want to make this a round trip. I'm going to the Brewers game. I don't want to stay there all night, so I need to get a ride back. I'm going to book round trip. My return date is going to be, again, today. The game usually ends around 9, so let's say about 9:30 gives me some time and a little buffer there. So I'm going to hit save, and so my return date is July 26th at 9:30 p.m. It's going to take me back to my office where I'll do a little bit more work tonight and then head home from there. So let's hit done. And then I can also see at this bottom right hand the estimate button. So selecting that, it's an 8-minute drive, it's 3.7 miles. I see the pricing tab. If I hit show there, I can see the base fare, a rate per mile, and a rate per minute. All of that adds to the subtotal, and then there are some surcharges added to this drive. Surcharges just vary on the type of drive that you're going, so it could vary there by price. So my total for the ride is $17.44. So let's close out of that exit, and I want to book my ride. So I'm going to click book ride. Well, it's going to make me either create an account or log in. Currently, I don't have an account, so I want to create one. If I did, I would click this login button at the bottom, and I would log in that way. So let's create an account here. My first name is Alex. We're going to put my last name is Bezat. Let's put a phone number in there. My email. And let's do a password. All right, and I agree to the privacy policy and terms. And now all I have to do here, oops, my passwords don't match, my bad. Let's just type that again. Sometimes I type too fast and they don't match. So let's hit finish here. It's signing up. Account already exists for that email. Let's change my email here to put a different one in. alexrivertransit.com. Perfect. So let's hit finish there. I'm signing up. There I am. I'm done. I'm going to go back and I want to book the ride again because now I'm actually logged in. So if I go to that top left corner again, I'm going to see that here's my actual account. I can book a ride. I can see payments, ride history, accounts, or change any settings. So I'm going to hit book ride and I have to enter in my payment mode. As soon as I enter in a payment, then I will be able to book my ride. So let's enter that all in. You can put whatever your credit card number is, the month and the year and of expiration, and the CVC code. So once you hit finish, you'll be having your first ride booked with Melanin Nav, and you will be all set to go.
Thank you. Shut it down. Simple as that. That process. And so that's our goal. Next slide. As we get individuals into the community and back into community, we're giving them more than just a certain piece. So we're looking at drivers. We want you to be drivers. We're putting information out. We have it on Indeed. We actually have, please give a hand of applause for drivers. Please raise your hand. We have some drivers, our first drivers from Milwaukee. Raise your hand. Raise your hand that you are now in the history talking about you're going to be the first to be able to introduce this community and more as we work. We are also a partner with different government agencies and hospitals to help us in this initiative to move this program forward. So we're excited about that as well, and we're going to continue in this conversation. The other thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that you understand this is not just for me, this is for you. So I have individuals that I want to come in and actually speak. Why this is important and important to them, because we're doing this for the community. So I want you to also understand the individuals that help put this together. So I want to see and hear, stand up, I want to see the Director of Transportation, Gerald Washington. Please stand up so they can see your face. That's the individual that you will meet and see as you are moving this forward as well. We have our dispatch director, Robert Jackson. Would you please stand up and raise your hand from that? Exactly. Thank you very much. So we have our media marketing. She is not here. Her name is Charisma Easter, but her sister is here with Hadid Easter. Please stand so they see your face and raise your hand. That's right. And so then also, as we're moving things forward, we want to also bring up individuals so you also can understand who is a part of this. So the first person I want to bring up is regards to, they're all good brothers and friends of mine and sisters with me. But I want to bring up Selwyn Jarvis. I want him to come up and have a few words for you to understand the importance that is impacting him and how we've been doing services through Navigator Coaching. Selwyn, please come up, please. Give him a hand.
Good morning. Again, my name is Selwyn Jarvis, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to speak here today. This work is very personal to me, and I appreciate, again, a chance to share my story. So on October 10th of 2021, that day is a day that changed my life, and it would never be the same. About 4 or 5 years prior to that, my mom had been diagnosed with dementia. And before last October, she had not experienced any major signs or decline. She had some minor memory issues, but nothing that my sister and I believed to be major. For example, she started kind of forgetting directions. She would get lost now and then when she drove. And we kind of chalked it up as regular aging, because, again, we weren't as familiar with dementia at that point. One day she called me, and there was construction around the neighborhood, and she couldn't find her way back home, and that was alarming to us. So at that point, my sister and I kind of decided that she shouldn't be driving. We'll kind of take her to where she needs to go, and my sister actually moved in with her at that time to kind of pay a little bit closer attention. So I started visiting, and once or twice a week, taking her to the Y to make sure she worked out and make sure she walked and stayed physically active. But on October 10th, the day that really changed everything, I went and picked her up, and, we did all the regular stuff, and I was taking her back home. And when we got to her house, she started to panic, and she was like, I'm not going in there. And I'm like, what's going on? She's like, that woman's trying to kill me. And I'm like, who, my sister? And she's like, yeah, she's trying to kill me. And I'm like, all right. My mom's 76 at the time. And she's strong. So, she started running, just took off down the driveway. And I'm like, what is going on? So I called my sister, and I'm like, what are you doing to Mama that she's afraid to come in the house? And she's like, I haven't told you, but her behavior has been getting more sporadic. So at that point, we decided that she would come to my house and stay for a while. But at that point, I reached out to Dr. Easter, who I know is quite familiar with dementia. His mother has it, and he's been doing a lot of work in the field. So at that point, he told me, get her to the doctor as soon as possible. As a matter of fact, he volunteered to come and meet my sister and I at the doctor's office. So at that point, we took her into the office, and they stated, she had some real aggressive behavior. I mean, she was trying to hit nurses. She didn't want to be there. So they ended up admitting her. So I thought, we're going to go into the office. She's going to be out. We're going to be fine. She ended up having to be in the hospital for probably like a week, and it was really hard on me and my sister. We were arguing about different stuff because she's the power of attorney, and I didn't necessarily agree. I'm like, we could just get her to go back home. We don't need her in the hospital. But Dr. Easter, again, was very instrumental in being able to keep us calm, talking to the doctors on our behalf, explaining what was going on. So we became a little bit more comfortable. At least I was a little bit more comfortable, and she was released and able to come to my home. Upon being at my home, her behavior, again, was still sporadic. She wouldn't take the medications. She was doing all kind of crazy stuff. So I was like, we ended up having to get her back to the hospital. And we felt that maybe the care that she needed was more than what we were able to provide. So we started looking for assisted living facilities that could really give her 24-hour care. Upon that, she again had issues at the assisted living facility, went back to the hospital. It was a roller coaster of things that were going on. We had Zoom calls with doctors, all kind of stuff. But again, throughout the whole process, Dr. Easter was there for us and really walked us through the entire thing. Eventually, we were able to find a facility that really worked for my mom. She's currently in a larger assisted facility is going great. Her behavior has stabilized. She's taking medication regularly, and she's doing a lot better. But again, most of that, and I attribute a lot of that to the support and help that Dr. Easter provided us along the way. He not only was a champion for my family and my mom, but he really was a saving grace for us in a lot of ways. So when Dr. Easter shared with me the vision for Melanin Minded as well as for the Transportation Navigator, which again he shared with you today, I thought it was a genius idea, and it was one in which many of us could use that support and things that we didn't have to kind of suffer through on our own. Dr. Easter has dedicated his life to fighting this disease and coming up with solutions to help us better take care of our loved ones. So I just want to publicly, again, thank you and offer my support to you. Again, I encourage anybody who's dealing with this disease to utilize the services, and it provides you to be able to better care for your loved ones. So again, thank you, brother, and I appreciate you. I love you, and anything that I could do to help during this, I just appreciate it.
Thank you. You'll have one of the drivers come up. Jeff, would you please come up as he is our, and I want you to understand, as you see these faces, as you see these individuals that I had stand up and raise their hand, these are individuals that are starting this off to make a change and to start here in Milwaukee. Jeff?
All right. Hello, everybody. How this, it's funny how all this ties into, it hits home with me. I've known Bashir for a while through my cousin Lee, who lives in Las Vegas. He's not here. But this affects my grandmother right now as we speak. My grandmother is dealing with some issues that the conditions and symptoms it throws us off at times with our family. My mother right now just lost her husband last year to stomach cancer. 2 months later, my mother had to take in my grandmother. My grandmother had to forfeit her house, and I inherited that house. It's a lot. I look and see how this disease is affecting my mother. She fully didn't get a chance to grieve my stepfather, let alone taking on this. So I see how this is affecting my mom, and I don't want to lose my mom no time soon to this. So it's hard. Seeing everything, how my grandmother goes up and down, it's a roller coaster. And I like the fact that God has put him in a position where he was able to help Selwyn, he can help us and so many other people, and I'm just thankful for it. As far as the transportation goes, I've been an Uber driver for 5.5 years. I've done over 8,000 rides. I've seen all types of people in this city. I want to let you know that I started out doing Uber just for the money, but then it turned into something else. When you pick up people from bars and concerts, it's all fun until you get somebody that's blind with a disability, somebody who has cancer, who can't get to their appointments. It starts to hit home. You realize you're not just doing it to make money, but it's a service. And then it's like, okay, people need help out here. There's so many people in the black community that don't, or who aren't there to help their older folks. And it's sad because I see a lot of older people, elderly people with disabilities, they get no help. And I'm sitting up here watching, and I'm like, we could be doing a lot more. With this program he got going on, it's going to help so many people. And if we could get people to come out and just do their part, help out. You can make some money, but you make more of a difference when you doing something like this. The fact that Uber, and they helped me out, but they just you get thrown into the fire. There's so many personalities, people dealing with issues that you're not prepared for. I wasn't prepared for a lot of things, but I learned over time. It made me a people person, having compassion for people, learning how to communicate with people. It's real. It's real. I do it. I don't know if you guys have family members, but I probably picked up some of y'all family members. I'm serious, and it's a real thing. You have to care. You really have to care because these people are precious cargo. From the time you pick them up to the time you drop them off, they with you. The energy you bring as a driver it carries into those appointments. Your time management is important. When you know, some of these folks, they have appointments, and, you know, it's 2-3 months that they have to schedule these appointments. If you miss these appointments, they got to wait again. And it's not right, it's not fair. So, you know, being courteous and mindful of the people's time, getting them there, and realizing that, you know, it's somebody's family member. And if you really think about it, one day it might be you. So you take that into consideration, and you know, you move forward with that. It's a blessing to do it. A lot of people, I wish they would just take the time out and just try it and see what it's about. But it's a good thing. I love it, and I'm going to be here from beginning to end. Also, I do drive for the Hilton Hotel, so I take pilot, the flight crews back and forth. So I know how precious it is, because those pilots, they deal with a lot of people on those planes, and they get us back and forth to where we got to go. And you run with that. You know, so I look at all of it like that. To be one of the drivers here, I guarantee you I will take care of your loved ones and treat them just like they one of my own. So.
Okay. All right. And we talked about with our partners. I want to bring up Diane Beckley Milner, if you're able to come up from the Alzheimer's Association. Please give her a hand.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak today. I totally support what's going on. I come to this, I'm actually full circle. I came home from Minneapolis, Minnesota in 2000 to care for my mother who had Alzheimer's. And I had lived in the Twin Cities for 30 years, although this is my home. But when Mom was diagnosed, it was like, oh, wait, nobody can take care of Mom like I can. So I dropped everything and came home. Mom lived to be 91, so she had a nice long life, but again, it was just like Bashir talked about, trying to dig and find everything on your own. I was not aware of the services that were available. And then when I finally did get her to services, sometimes they wanted to put limits on those services. So it was a challenge. It was quite a challenge. But after Mom passed, I went to work for nonprofits and finally ended up at the Department on Aging, where I met Ramona, and finally ended up at the Alzheimer's Association, where I am now. So that's why I say it came full circle. But when I listened to what Bashir talked about with the challenges that we have in terms of navigation, this is right on the money. He is so far forward thinking. I thought he was forward thinking when he came up with the idea to apply music and talked about music in terms of talking to people and letting people connect with the music. But now he's on to the next thing, which is the navigation and combining that with the music. We have something here in Milwaukee, and I can see this going nationwide, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So you're on to something, Brother Bashir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Just two more, everybody, and we'll be done. So I have one more person to bring up, or two more people. So we're going to have my partner in crime at the Department on Aging, Andrea Gar. Would you please come up here and speak?
I don't know if it's still morning or afternoon, but hello, everyone. And I was determined I was not going to say a word. I'm here in support of my dear friend and partner. But I have to tell you guys, when I first met Bashir, it was when he was working in the elder abuse unit at the Department on Aging. And I was a social worker. And I called the Department on Aging on behalf of a client. And how quickly I saw this man assess the situation very confidently, very capably, and describe what needed to happen and made it happen. I was extraordinarily impressed. About a year or so later, I had the extraordinary opportunity to be his partner and to share an office with Bashir for about 3.5 years. when we both worked as dementia care specialists. I now work for the state of Wisconsin, overseeing the very program that used to employ Bashir and I. When Bashir stepped into that role, there were just under 30 DCS, and he was the only one of color. Years later, I'm now the program manager, there are these many dementia care specialists of color. There is a great need, you guys. Bashir described that African Americans, unfortunately, are plagued by this disease at twice the rate of white people, and Hispanics 1.5 times the rate of white folks. And yet, there is such an amazing gap in services for us. When I first stepped into the role of dementia care specialist, and my daddy was asking me, so what does your job involve? And I was trying to describe to him, and there was a research component to my position then, because we wanted to find out what was, basically, to answer the question, if black folks are experiencing dementia at such a higher rate, why are they not accessing the supports and services? So my job was to help answer that question, and there's a lot of reasons for that. But one of the most important reasons I want to bring to you all's attention came to me as a light bulb moment when I was talking to my father. And I was describing to him that that's a component of what I'm going to be doing in the community for the next several years. And my daddy said something profound. That's because those services are not for us. My parents grew up in the Middle South, and they would never have dreamed of going to a government office and expecting to be served. But let me tell y'all, even though times are a little bit different now, still, ain't nobody gonna take care of us like we take care of us. So I wanna say that Melanin Minded, this is inspired. I remember when Bashir first described this vision to me so many years ago. It is inspired, y'all. I have watched the hand of God guide this man from that moment until today. So all I want to say is I want to encourage everybody in this room, because I was sitting in the back when we all raised our hands, and just about everybody in this room raised their hand. This train is about to leave the station. You want to make sure you're on it.
Thank you. And I have to bring her up because she started this. God gave her the vision to hire me. So Ramona, would you please come up? Understanding that I really truly believe I use this, that God uses his people to help his people. And I would not have gotten into the Department of Aging to hear about these services, to provide any help, if it wasn't for her to be able to use that move to get me in. So that's very important, everyone.
All I can say is that God just moved miraculously to bring him to the Department on Aging. I've been in the area of geriatrics for 40 plus years. I got into it when literally nobody else of color in Milwaukee was even dealing with older adults. That was back in the early 80s. And a long history of just moving in this area and growing in this area, then got to the Department on Aging, where moved up and was able to oversee APS and elder abuse, but always was an advocate for our people, because we're not getting the service. We don't know about the service. You know, I can't tell you the number of people that will call me to ask me questions because they know what I do, and there aren't many other people that they can turn to in this field. And even now, there aren't that many people of color that are in the area of working with disability and older adults in particular in geriatrics. But this is something that is inspired because the services that are out there don't necessarily cater to us. People don't necessarily want to go into our neighborhoods, you understand. They don't really want to take the time with us. I have had calls where people were supposed to be picked up and weren't picked up late, left waiting for rides to come back and forth. And so to have something this personal, where you have drivers, as the one that we saw that spoke, to talk about the personal connection, to have training specifically in the area working with people with memory issues, working with beleaguered family caregivers, who are trying to maybe even still work but take care of their loved ones, still got a job, they can't take on and off the job to always take the person where they need to go, etc. But can they trust the transportation that's out here to really take care of that person, not just drop them at the door or hope they get to where they want to get to, or miss them because they're not watching out the door to be able to get to the curb on time to get to the van. Those types of things happen. And to understand the dynamics of memory issues, people who have unrealistic fears that were just described, because that is a symptom of dementia, the various types of dementia. I was a caregiver for my mother back in the late 90s and early 2000s, and she had Parkinson's. But it was Parkinson's-related dementia in the latter stages of Parkinson's, which again is different from Alzheimer's. There are so many different types of dementias out here and things that cause behavioral issues, emotional issues, and the dynamics of what's going on in the brain, depending upon what part of the brain is affected, just like Bashir described. So my mother had that. She didn't necessarily have memory issues, and it was different. And so because I was in the field, I didn't have some of the issues that were also described by Bashir and Diane and some of the other people, because I understood the resources and knew how to access them, but still basically was full-time, and a lot of what we had to do could not be government funded. So we were still ended up spending a lot of money out of pocket and et cetera to do what we needed to do and to balance all that out. But I never would have trusted the current transportation at that time to take my mother anywhere, and to think that she would have got there safely and back again safely and really navigated around. But this is a service that I would trust because I know the person behind it, and I know what he's doing, and I know the training that his drivers will have and the oversight that they will have to be sure that people are getting safely where they belong, being escorted, being taken back out, having music, et cetera. All those types of personal things that I've never heard of any type of transportation company trying to provide. So it's really a pleasure to see his growth and creativity in this area to carry on the torch, as they say, kind of a legacy for me, because I know we're in good hands with the next generation coming up to take care of the baby boomer here, because a lot of us. And so we need people who really understand the aging issues, dementia, et cetera, because as the statistics say, this is only going to grow exponentially, and a lot of it is because the baby boom is growing older, and we're a pretty big generation of people. So I just want to say congratulations. It's
Thank
a
you.
pleasure to be part of this, and I encourage, get the word out there.
And we're going to be finishing out, Pastor. Thank you. Give me some love. Give me some love. Don't no. Thank you. We're finishing out. Pastor's going to get to us. I want to add a couple items. Can you go to the slide to say, how do you become a driver? How do you become a part of this? You are going to be a community. So you will use your own vehicle. You would have to have full coverage insurance. You will also be able to give us your driver's license information, just your picture, so it will be uploaded in the system. The other thing that we're making sure that you understand is that you can be what we say our regular driver and still be able to get people to the community, take anyone out, just like any other rideshare service, get them where they want to go. If you're becoming a dementia-capable rider, you do have to go through training. So you will be going through a training for Dementia 101 training in order to be a dementia-capable driver. So you will not just be put out there, but to get the touch in the field, if you have not did any rideshare before, we'll start you off in that process. Our team is going to help you in making sure you're good. We have Gerald will be talking to you directly, making sure any questions that are needed. We also understand that this is still a pilot that we're focusing on in the community to do that. So we're working with government agencies to be able to do that pilot. Also with some hospital systems to do that pilot, with the Alzheimer's Association with that pilot, because we're going to find out what works and what doesn't work. We're also going to make sure that you'll get connected to services, because I'm pretty sure we're going to find out you don't know those services are out there. So that's the other connector pieces that go along with this. So if you're interested, please tell everyone that you know to download My Melanin Nav. Download that on your iPhone or your Android to be a rider, to be a driver. Go to the last slides, fellas. To be able to contact us, either go to the website at melaninmindedllc.com, or you can email me. It's a long email, bashir.easter@melaninmindedllc.com or info@melaninmindedllc.com. It's at the last slide, fellas. And then we'll contact you back, go through the process. The job is also on Indeed. It's on LinkedIn. It's on Facebook. So if you're interested, please tell more of us to be able to be a part of this. And we're looking at all people to be the drivers and people to be riders as well, as to bring this to the community. And so I just want to make sure that you understand. And the last person I would like to thank, and I'll say this publicly as you all know, is I'd like to thank my wife. Would you please stand, Alexa Law, please, for me for a second? I want to thank you for all the things you've done and putting me and helping me and putting up with me to move this forward as well, acknowledging that. And so thank you all. Thank you all. This is the beginning. Please understand, this is the beginning to change more than you know. We now have something to be able to put out to someone to say, I have a tool for you. The DMV is something that we had a conversation with them to get this information out for the numbers that are out there. You would be astonished the amount of individuals who are no longer able to ride because of just mild cognitive impairment. Very important to understand what that means and what that looks like, and we're willing to build and make sure our community is aware of what's going on and how we help and how we change. And so I would like to bring a pastor. Please pray us out. If anyone has any questions, I'm willing to answer them. But again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And my mother, this is for your legacy. The Lord's business is for your legacy. For all the ones of your family who is impacted by this and you're stepping in to help, this is for their legacy. And we will show the world that we can make a change from inner through us. Thank you all. Thank you, Pastor.
Wow, let's give it up for Dr. Bashir Easter again. And for all of those that are playing a major role in this, look at somebody and tell them, this is the pastor in me now. Look at your neighbor. Say, neighbor. Say, we got work to do. Right? How many believe by show of hands that we have work to do in this community and we're going to make a difference? Right? Come on, let's give God a great big hand praise for that. So we're grateful. We're going to end with prayer. And again, some of the helps and the leads will be sticking after a little bit. Right, Bashir? Just got any questions or concerns? Again, share the information. Share. Your responsibility right now is to share as much information as possible. I firmly believe as pastor of this church, of this ministry, that we have an obligation as well to the community to get this out. Right? I was talking to a dear friend of mine, Brother Barry Green, and he said a lot of churches got the word missionary in them, right? And we need to start doing mission work. Right? And I know what the Bible says about having we really need to, right? The Bible talks about having the spirit of a sound mind. And oftentimes in the church world, we think we can just pray for it, right? But I'm a firm believer that effort gets results. That makes sense? So with having the spirit of a sound mind, collaborating with an organization such as this to help those individuals, with me as a pastor, having members that I failed, right? And what I mean by that is that they've come in because we didn't have the capability to serve them in this capacity. We give them a scripture, we give them blessed oil, and we thank God for his grace and his mercy. But now we can kind of get in the boat with them, right, and walk through the neighborhoods and let them know, hey, we're here for you to make it better. So again, y'all, I'm excited. All of you are a part of history, so just celebrate yourselves really quick. And everyone standing, those that can and will, as we dismiss with prayer. Lord God, we thank you for just being a gracious Father. We thank you for your hand of mercy that have kept us. We thank you for traveling mercy and grace. Lord God, we thank you for all of those loved ones that have gone on home to be with you, that have suffered, right, so that we can help other families not be able to suffer. We thank you for all of the grunt work and for those that have been in this industry for years saying, I need help. And now you have sent the help to make this dreadful disease manageable, right? Giving them the freedom to have life. You said in your word that you would give us life and that life more abundantly. And we're walking in that even now. So we're grateful for that. So God, be with us as we step off in this endeavor. We ask that you lead and guide us in a plain path. You told us that in all of our ways to acknowledge you, and you would direct our path. And we thank you for directing our visionary, our leader, Bashir Easter, and those of this organization, and to help this community, and not just this community, Father God, but the world and the masses. So we thank you for doing it. Keep us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. Y'all, we don't like to dismiss, but repeat after me. Say, obey God. He'll bless you real good. God bless you.
And last thing, Pastor, I came to you and asked you to be a part of this. You didn't have to. You didn't. But when I asked you and I came and talked to your mother and everyone, you listened, and the way you were looking at me, you knew immediately something had to be done. For him to put this together, you all, I had no clue when I walked in here to see how he put this out here. Do you understand what this looks like, to share this holy ground, to have this conversation for the community? I'm thanking you for that, and I appreciate that more than you know.